She is the leader of the judiciary, and on the Supreme Court, she is first among equals. Lawyers bowed before her, but today she stood and bowed before a panel of judges as she made a last-ditch legal effort to stop the ongoing constitutional process to remove her from office as Chief Justice. Gertrude Torkonoo wanted the entire process stopped. She didn't get that. The 5-member panel of the Supreme Court delivered a unanimous ruling, striking out a supplementary affidavit filed by suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Torkonoo in the process. The affidavit, which alleged unfair and degrading treatment by the committee investigating her under Article 146, was ruled inadmissible on the grounds it disclosed details meant to be kept strictly confidential. The court held that the contents violated the constitutional requirement that such proceedings be held in camera. A debate erupted over the inclusion of Justices Poaman and Asiedu Adibu, along with other committee members, as defendants in the suit. Godfred Dame, lead counsel for the suspended Chief Justice, insisted they could not be represented by the Attorney General, suggesting they were acting in personal rather than official capacities. But the bench pushed back. Justice Tanko, for instance, asked bluntly, did Godfred Dame expect the judges to hire lawyers from their own pockets and file affidavits individually? Justice Kulendi even went further, arguing that the judges were performing a state function co-opted into service by constitutional mandate, not by personal choice, and were thus entitled to state representation. As all this legal drama unfolded right at the Supreme Court, my eyes occasionally drifted to the suspended Chief Justice, Gertrude Torkonoo, as she sat composed, her right leg crossed over her left knee, leaning slightly to her right, and at times she engaged quietly with her lawyers and husband. At other moments, she fixed her gaze firmly on the bench. When the unanimous ruling was finally delivered, which struck out her supplementary affidavit in its entirety and also dismissed her injunction application, Justice Gertrude Torkonoo wore a wry look and later left the premises of the court, hand in hand with her husband. Her lawyers maintained the process is deeply flawed, but she will not walk away without a fight.
Not surprising, because really follows in the theme of what we've been witnessing. But yeah, I think that we move on. There are a lot of battles that we can fight. We think that the process is flawed, no doubt. Heavily flawed, laden with all kinds of constitutional violations. And I'm quite surprised that the Supreme Court will be more or less acceding to the perpetration of such violations against the highest judicial office holder.
Opinion, you have said that this process is deeply flawed. There are those who are calling for the Chief Justice to simply resign and save herself all the trouble from this. As a former Attorney General, if I were to ask your opinion as a lawyer for Madam Torkonoo, what would you say to that? Due
process, rule of law, constitutionalism must prevail in Ghana. That is what we seek. It did not, on account of people putting pressure on the CJ to resign or do whatever, that we will take any decision. The most important thing is that there must be an upholding of the rule of law in Ghana. And we will continue to assert our rights. So the proper thing must be done. As far as I'm saying, the proper thing must be done. Having suffered this legal setback at the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Gertrude Torkonoo is expected to continue submitting herself to the 5-member committee investigating the petitions seeking to remove her from office as Chief Justice. The Chief Justice continued to contend that the process is deeply flawed, deeply unconstitutional, and must not be allowed to stand. But she has not found favor in her own colleagues at the Supreme Court, who has made the case that the spirited argument made on her behalf in the Supreme Court was simply meritless and does not deserve any favor from the highest court of the land. Reporting for Joy News, my name is Kweku Asante, Supreme Court, Accra.